This video has been brought to you by my book, Play the Dragon Volume 1, The History of Dragon Ball Video Games. Check it out in the description below. JoJo, JoJo, JoJo. Bloodlines flowing throughout time as we come to play the game. He's descended from the Joestar line, so he's got a lot to prove. He's a gentleman who fights with his pride and ham on two. Now he fights to prove his worth as a gentleman, and then he goes to show now that he won't back down as he fights Neo and his foes. Time to face some JoJo, 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 JoJo. The burning fights commences now. I want to show this game off to you. There's burning courage running through his veins, transcending time throughout all generations. Now you get to see JoJo's final blow. This is the blood of the game, JoJo! Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood for the PS2. Sono Chino Sadame JoJo! So I'm a huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan, and I'm actually one of the rare fans who likes Phantom Blood as their favorite part, even though I've read everything up the JoJo line. Okay, calm down. I mean, I'm still gonna defend Phantom Blood to the end, man. And the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood PS2 game was originally supposed to be a tie-in for the 2007 Phantom Blood movie that only came out in Japan for a very, very short amount of time, and then it was never seen again, although over the years a couple of clips have appeared on YouTube. And nobody knows to this day why this movie has not been released, and despite all the rumors you've probably heard, like, Hirohiko Araki hating this movie, or the movie didn't perform that well, certain characters were removed, we don't really have the truth on why this movie was not released, but we're not here to talk about the movie, we're here to talk about the tie-in game. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood for the PS2 is the only game dedicated to the first part of the series, or most of the games in the series are based mostly on Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, Part 5, Golden Wind, and we also have games just based on all 8 parts of the series. So now the thing you're wondering is this game any good? Well, Raimo. Raimo, huh? I guess this makes this Raimo's Bizarre Adventure.
You thought you were playing a good game, but it was me, Rio!
Well, Rio, how many lives has this game taken because they wasted their money on it? Like me.
Well, how many loaves of bread have you eaten in your lifetime?
I'm not gonna answer that. And these are pretzel buns, not bread. So the biggest issue I have with this game is the camera. Yes, the camera is always centered on Jonathan, and the problem is it's way too centered on Jonathan. So it's a bit hard to show you with the gameplay footage, but the thing is you're always going to be fighting with the camera while trying to focus on your enemies, and it's always centered on Jonathan's back. And Jonathan has a hard time locking onto enemies, so he's going to be kind of punching here when the enemy's over here, and you're going to end up dying a lot.
Where are you punching at, Raimo? I'm over here! Useless! Muda!
And yes, there is a dedicated button to locking onto your enemies, but in the heat of the action, it gets really, really difficult to press it. And so I do admit the first third of this game was really, really hard for me because of the bad camera, and then later on in the game, you end up fighting multiple enemies at the same time, and it gets really difficult to focus on all your enemies. Although I will say, The game gets a bit easier after Dio gets the stone mask, and then you learn Hamon from Zeppeli. And so the good thing is you can mostly charge up your Hamon and pray that you lock onto the enemy and punch him and beat him in 1 or 2 hits. And this game actually follows the Phantom Blood story to a T, using the colored version of the manga rather than the anime, because this game came out in 2006, 6 years before the David production anime ever came out. So the color schemes are based on the colored version of the manga that was released in Japan. And all the voice actors they use for this game are the ones they actually use for the movie, not for the David production anime. And since most of us haven't seen the movie, we don't really have anything really to base it off of. And once you do learn the Hamon, you can actually use the thumbsticks to use, Sunlight Yellow Overdrive and all the special Hamon attacks, which make it a lot easier to beat Dio at the end. So the game does get a bit easier once you learn Hamon. You pretty much just charge up your Hamon, punch an enemy, defeat the enemy, repeat the process. But by the time you're fighting Buford in the water, this is when the game gets pretty difficult, because you're underwater, it's really hard to move, and you have to find pockets of air where you can inhale bubbles so you can get air to use your Hamon to use on Buford, but it's not easy to hit Buford in the water, so this battle took me a little while. And holy shit, and if you thought Tarkus was huge in the anime and the manga, Tarkus is really huge in this game, but luckily he's not too difficult to defeat in comparison to Buford. And actually, one part of the game where I did have a bit of a problem with was the fight with Dio in Midnight's Lot, and I was having trouble beating him. Like, my technique to actually charge up Hamon and unleash it on Dio did not really work, but you actually do have to follow parts of the story, just like in the manga and the anime. Like, when you're fighting Jack the Ripper, Jonathan has the glass that he's not supposed to drop. And you actually have to use that glass to find Jack the Ripper inside the tunnel. And so when you're fighting Dio in Midnight's Lot, you actually have to use the flames, just like in the manga, because remember when Jonathan gets the Sword of Luck and Pluck, he actually uses the fire from the flames to heat up the sword so he doesn't succumb to Dio's freezing technique, and you have to beat Dio that way.
What's the matter, Raimo? Having trouble beating the game? You can't beat it! You're useless! Useless! Muda, 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 muda!
あの感じ完全に波紋は入った
No! Raimo! How dare you! I have to hurry before the Hamon hits my head! Move or move!
And then the final fight with Dio on the ship after you get married to Arena with Dio and Wang Chan, you actually have to charge up your Hamon so you can use a Sunlight Yellow Overdrive in order to beat him, because you can't beat Dio in the normal fashion. And once you defeat Dio and Wang Chan, you see the ending, you win the game, and then you unlock a whole bunch of bonus modes, where you actually get to play as multiple characters. There's a ton of characters you can play as in this game. I mean, there's extra battle mode, there's the 77 Nights challenge mode where you have to win 77 battles, and then after you beat that, you unlock Dio mode, where you unlock Dio and you get to see the story from his perspective, although there are no cutscenes. In all honesty, I don't think you want to torture yourself playing this game to see any of the extra modes. Alright, so where did JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood go wrong? Well, it went wrong in a lot of places. Well, it was Bandai Namco's first attempt at a solo JoJo game, after the SNES Stardust Crusaders RPG game, and the Capcom fighting game, and the Golden Wind game also made by Capcom. And it was definitely rushed in order to meet the deadline for the Phantom Blood movie. So luckily, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Phantom Blood for the PS2 is not very expensive on eBay. You can probably get it for about 10 to 15 bucks, well, plus the shipping from Japan. I actually got this in a combo with the Golden Wind game for about 30 bucks, so it was about 15 bucks for me. And is it worth playing after everything I said? You know what? It's a terrible game. I'm not gonna lie about that. It is an awful game. But if you're a JoJo fan like me, and if you love Phantom Blood, I think you'll have a little fun playing this game, even though it's frustrating. So I guess if you're a fan of JoJo and you like Phantom Blood, definitely try it out. Well, anyways, that ends this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories. I'm Ryan, and
oh no, my throat! I must use the last of my Hamon to obliterate this game and blow up my apartment so you, the audience, can live and never have to play this game.
Look what you've reduced me to, Raimo. Now I'll take your body and take over the world.
I'm on overdrive.
Your body is now mine! You stopped me with a good JoJo game!
Rio, even now, I feel a bizarre friendship between us. Like our destinies are forever intertwined, and will end with this game.
Wait, Raimo, if you let me go, I'll heal your wounds. You'll be able to review games forever! Raimo! No. It's too late. He's dead!
I'll play the roundabout. The game will make you out and out. I'll play the game your way. Call it morning, playing through the started in and out the levels. The music dance and sway. They make the children really play. I'll play the game your way. Call it morning, playing through the start and in and out the levels. In and around the game. Gamers come out of the sky and they play there. 1 mile over, we'll be there and play with you. 10 true gamers will be there and playing too. 24 before my game, you'll see I'll play this with you. All these games now have awakened. All the JoJo characters you get to play are all in this game. So many modes you get to play. Take a friend and play some games online. We'll see who wins the game. When this game tests my fate, it really cramps my style. But now I tempt the game with a devious smile. Dodge all my opponent's attacks, I now counter you with my own. I knock you to the floor and beat your face until it's red. You can't get away because now I beat you with my special. Like a bloody game, I play this like a bloody game. I rack up all the wins and go through all the story mode. I just won the game, so I get to play you now for tonight. We play together. Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle for the PS3, and this is the part where you say you're going to watch this entire review. So, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle, released in 2013 in Japan and 2014 in America, is Bandai's second attempt at a JoJo game after the disastrous Phantom Blood for the PS2, and let me tell you guys, this game is a quantum leap improvement over Phantom Blood for the PS2. Like, holy you know what, actually, I kind of do consider this game more of the successor to the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure arcade game, aka JoJo's Venture, aka Heritage to the Future, that was developed by Capcom back in the late 90s. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle was developed by CyberConnect 2, you know, the ones who made the Naruto Ninja Storm games. So we have an awesome cel-shaded look for all the JoJo characters, and this game actually covers the entire JoJo series up to Part 8 JoJo Lion. Although at the time that this game came out, JoJo Lion was only about 2 years into its run, so don't expect a ton of JoJo Lion in this game. And this time you get to select all your favorite JoJos and characters from all the JoJo eras like Jonathan Joestar, Joseph Joestar, my favorite JoJo, and then Jotaro, then Josuke, then Giorno, and then Jolene, and then Johnny and Gyro from Part 7. All the JoJo characters you can shake a stick at. And this game is a one-on-one 2D fighter where you actually do get to move on the background and foreground, and there are environmental hazards in this game, like the chandelier in Dio's castle. And when you're in Egypt fighting Dio, the senator's car can actually run you over. Yes, even if you're playing as Dio. So if you're playing as Dio, and then the senator's car with Dio inside it can run over you. So there's 2 Dios? And even though this game was not developed by Capcom, it plays a lot like a Capcom brawler. And you should feel right at home with the controls, you know. Yeah, so just do your quarter circle forwards for your special attacks, your quarter circle backwards, and so on. Because this game does combine all 8 of the JoJo parts, you get the Hamon users like Jonathan, Zeppeli, and Joseph, well, younger Joseph, aka me, and the stand users Jotaro, Kakyoin, and Jean-Pierre Eiffel. Eiffel? Wait, isn't his name Polnareff? As you know, Hirohiko Araki, the creator of JoJo, his shtick is music puns. And even though Capcom was able to use the music puns like Polnareff, unfortunately due to copyright problems, they can't exactly use Polnareff or any of the other music puns. But it doesn't make sense because, you know, the Viz Media manga uses Polnareff just fine, and they mentioned Weird Al Yankovic at the end of Part 3 just fine. But no, you cannot have that in the video games for some reason. So Jean-Pierre Eiffel. Oh, and if you think this is bad, wait till we get to Eyes of Heaven. Oh boy. And this game has quite a variety of modes. You get your standard arcade mode, and then you get the story mode, and you do get a campaign mode where you get to unlock sounds for the gallery, pictures for the gallery, and a lot of experience points. And there is currency in this game, no, not microtransactions, although there is DLC for this game for other characters. And with this currency, you can actually unlock modifiers before the battles that can make the battles very, very easy or very, very hard. So you can basically set modifiers that make you twice as powerful, can actually drain your opponent's health every second of the battle, and make your opponent super weak. So, in all honesty, the story mode in this game is very, very, very easy. And playing through story mode, yes, there are going to be spoilers, but they're kind of just brief text. And you actually don't get all the stages in each of the sagas. So basically in Part 1, you only get the Midnight Locks Castle. In Part 2, you only get the Stadium. In Part 3, you only get, you know, the Egypt streets, and so on. And story mode in this game is more akin to just reading the summaries on the internet, and you're not really going to get the real experience unless you read the manga or watch the anime. So Part 8 in the story mode is definitely very different because at the time this game was released, you know, JoJo Lion had only been out for a few years. So you're actually playing as Josuke from Part 8, but you're actually fighting all the previous JoJos from every saga. So you actually get to fight Jonathan, Joseph, Jotaro, Josuke, Giorno, Jolene, and Johnny. And actually the Part 7 characters, both Gyro and Johnny, they ride on horses. Yes, they ride on horses in this game. Yes, a fighting game where you fight characters on horses. And actually when you do knock Johnny off his horse, yeah, get off your high horse, Johnny Joestar. He is actually handicapped and he moves a lot slower, and he has to get back on his horse in order to fight at full capacity. And unlike the Phantom Blood game, I can highly recommend JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle for all your friends and people who love JoJo, because it has a solid fighting engine, which is the successor to Capcom's JoJo game. It has a really awesome cel-shaded look. It has a wide variety of JoJo fighters you get to play as, a lot of different playstyles, from the Hamon users to the stand users. It And it does tell most of the JoJo story, well, pretty much parts 1 through 7, and a little bit of part 8, which is different. So luckily, you can get JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle on PSN Network for about $30, although I do recommend waiting for a discount for it to be, maybe 15 to $10. Unfortunately, a physical copy of this game is a bit costly, and I do have to thank my friend Alizzard in Crimson for donating his copy of the game for the show. Although a Japanese copy is a lot cheaper, but, this one's in English. Alright, so that ends this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle. And this is the part where you say you're going to buy this game and enjoy it. And if this game is too much on eBay, I'm going to use my secret technique. Run for your lives! Play the roundabout. The game will make you out and out. I'll play the game your way. Call it morning, playing through the started in and out the levels. The music dance and sway. They make the children really play. I'll play the game your way. Call it morning, playing through the start and in and out the levels. In and around the game. Gamers come out of the sky and they play there. 1 mile over, we'll be there and play with you. 10 true gamers will be there and playing too. 24 before my game, you'll see I'll play this with you.
Gaming sessions turn to stardust. After 100 years, our foe Dio comes back to play. All our heroes now must go face him in a game that races against all of time. Now we gotta go and triumph as we give Dio his karma, and we shine in platinum. Stand up, stand up, stand up, summon your stand to fight. Alright now, alright now, alright now, fire like a bullet. Break you down, break you down, break you down, until we win the game. The game is done as we stand proud.
Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to be talking about today is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, aka JoJo's Venture, aka Heritage for the Future, for the, PlayStation, Arcade, and Dreamcast. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage to the Future was originally an arcade game released by Capcom back in 1998, then it received an upgrade in 1999 calling it Heritage to the Future, and then it came out for the PlayStation and the Dreamcast. Now I remember when this game came out on the PlayStation, my friends were like, "Have you played that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game?" I was like, what the hell is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Sounds bizarre. Now back in the late 90s, early 2000s, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure had more of a cult following thanks to the scanlations that were going around with the manga, and also there was the 1993 and 2000 OVAs, which are very, very hard to find nowadays. Well, you can actually get the first part of it easily, but then the second part is a little more expensive because, Dio was reading the Quran and they had to recall it for, religious reasons or something. So naturally, when JoJo's Bizarre Adventure exploded here in America in the 2010s, I was like, I gotta play this game now. I remember this game, and oh boy, this game is not very, very cheap to get. But I'll talk about that later. And I'm pretty much going to call this game JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage to the Future for most of the review. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage to the Future is a fighting game developed by Capcom using the CPS3 engine they used in Street Fighter 3. So imagine all of your favorite JoJo characters from Stardust Crusaders in Street Fighter style. Oh my god, this is amazing, this is amazing. Like, we get to play JoJo's Street Fighter style. So, you can just use your quarter circle forwards, your back circle forwards, your yoga flames and stuff like that, and do all the JoJo moves. I always wanted Capcom to make a Dragon Ball Z game, but Capcom making a JoJo fighting game? It is pretty well known that the developers at Capcom are really, really huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fans, and it really shows in this game. Like, you have awesome graphics that look really close to the series, and then you have the awesome looking character sprites that look like Darkstalkers but JoJo style. And you get a wide variety of characters to play as, not just Jotaro and his friends. You actually get to play as the villains too, including Dio! And each character does have their own unique ending, so if you actually beat the game with Vanilla Ice or Alessi or any of the villains, you get to see them overthrow Dio and take over the world! And besides the one-on-one fighting mechanics you know and love from the Capcom games, you can actually activate your stand with the press of a button, and you get to use a lot more moves extending your range. So if you're Polnareff, you can use Silver Chariot to expand your range. And I am going to talk about the exclusives released for the PlayStation and the Dreamcast. Now, the PlayStation has Super Story Mode, which does follow the events of Stardust Crusaders almost to a T. A couple of things are missing, but most of Stardust Crusaders is there. And yes, you can actually beat the game as my pal Iggy. Yeah, Iggy, you get your own ending in this game. Isn't that cool, Iggy? And Super Story Mode isn't exactly just about the one-on-one fights. You actually get some mini-games in between the fights. Like, you actually get a lot of QTE games, and you actually get the Battle Derby in poker, so make sure you kind of learn your poker rules. And there's actually the battle where you fight Inyaba's stand, and you actually get to fight a zombie army using the fighting game engine, and you have to fight several zombies before the round is over. And there is a mini-game where you have to locate one of Dio's henchmen with the sun, and there is also another mini-game where you have to use Hierophant Green and Silver Chariot to go inside Joseph's brain to actually get rid of the stand inside, and it's actually a bit of a shooter game. And when you get into Dio's mansion, you get to fight Darby in a racing game. And yes, there is a little racing game in this game, but it's actually more of a QTE. And the QTEs kind of start off a little easy at first, but then by the time you get over to Dio's mansion and fight Darby, yeah, the QTEs get a little difficult here. But luckily, you do get to save your game in between rounds, so you don't have to do it all in one go. And unique to the Dreamcast version is Alessi Mode. And Alessi Mode actually lets you play as the childlike versions of your favorite characters, and it's pretty interesting, and I highly recommend checking it out. And also by playing Arcade Mode and Super Story Mode, you get to unlock stuff in the gallery, which gives this game a lot of replay value, so make sure you unlock everything. So guys, in my opinion, I think this is hands down the best JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game that's ever come out. Not only do we have all of our favorite characters from the Stardust Crusader series, it has awesome fighting gameplay, awesome fighting mechanics, you get to use your stands, and if you have the home versions, there's Super Story Mode, which retells the story with a lot of mini-games, and if you have the Dreamcast version, you have Alessi Mode, and this game has a ton of replay value, and it's so awesome to play through Arcade Mode and see all the different endings. Like, you can see what happens if Iggy wins. See, if Iggy actually survives and beats Dio, yeah, Iggy! And you can also beat arcade mode with my personal favorite JoJo, Joseph. Yeah, I know Joseph already had his time to shine fighting the Pillarmen in part 2, but why not give Joseph a chance to actually beat Dio where Jonathan couldn't beat him? And also, the biggest problem with this game is it's very expensive. Like, holy crap, this game is expensive. Either the US Dreamcast or PlayStation version is gonna cost you into the triple digits, although the Japanese version isn't that expensive. But yeah, if you want the US version of this game, it did come out in HD back in 2012 on the Xbox 360 and the PS3, but the problem is Capcom lost the JoJo license to Bandai, so these games have been discontinued and you can't get them anymore, which really sucks. So you're gonna have to be spending a lot of money to get this game if you want a legit copy. Well guys, that ends this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories.
Well, Raimo, you thought you were doing a regular review, but it was me, Rio!
It's you! You're back, Rio!
And I'm here to challenge you to finally defeat you and get my revenge.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you to a match to show that the Joestars will always triumph over evil.
Useless, 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 useless! Muda, 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 muda! Ora, 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 ora! You dare mock me?
You wanna know why you lost, Rio? Because you me off. And that ends this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage to the Future. Ora.
Yes, 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 yes.
All the old gaming consoles, now they do the game dance, don't you know? If they play too quick, oh way-oh, they're playing down like a domino. All the gamer men on the mile, they place the money on a bet. Boss crocodiles, whoa way-oh, they snap the teeth on your life bar. Gamer ties with the hookah pipe say way-oh, 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 way-oh. Play like an Egyptian. Blonde gamer girls take their games, they play around and they cross the world. They got the moves, oh way-oh, you play their game and they give you more. All the young kids so sick of school, they like the games and the console brand. When the buzzer rings, oh way-oh, they're playing like an Egyptian. All the games in the marketplace say way-oh, 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 way-oh. Play like an Egyptian. I want to know. There's a sleeping game rising from the sands, calling out to you. Our destination comes to an end with burning flames all around. This rippling game burns right now, pierced by a fearless sword. All the gods are now coming to play with you. In the game you're playing right now, there's an unknown fate, but the time has now come for the final battle. The one who will now save the world, Star Platinum. In this game we went unplanned to fight, wasting time as we're on our feet. All around the world we have to go. We are called the Stardust Crusaders. this. On the last page of the manual we'll all have to see, I write my statement that I'm going to win. End of the world. This is the end of the game. Order, 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 order!
Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to be talking about today is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for the Super Famicom. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for the Super Famicom, released in 1993, was the very first dedicated JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game. So this isn't exactly the first JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game, because JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was featured both in Famicom Jump 1 and 2 for the Famicom. So finally, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure finally has its own solo representation on the Super Famicom. And how does it fare? Well, let's find out. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for the Super Famicom is a point-and-click adventure game combined with RPG elements. So, for example, you move around Jotaro and his friends, and then you actually use point and click with the control pad to actually, search drawers, search cabinets for items and weapons, and then after that, when you get into battles, it goes into total RPG mode. So once you get into combat, you actually have to choose between 5 cards, and hopefully these cards will give you a good outcome, because there's cards that can restore your HP and MP, they'll give a certain character more HP and MP, or they'll take it all away, or they'll cause more stress on each of the characters, which I'll get into later. But hopefully you get a good draw, and during battle you get your normal attack and item commands, but you also get these commands called Speak and Check. And Speak actually does what it's supposed to do. You actually get to talk to your opponents, and there's some battles where you actually do have to talk to your opponents in order to proceed to the story. And then the Check command actually gives your characters some time to observe your opponents, and then if they actually find a good solution to defeat their opponents, that turns into the Guts command, which actually lets your characters do stronger attacks. And this game has a thing called the biorhythm system. Now, the biorhythm system determines how strong your characters are, and it also measures the character's stress. And if a character has a lot of stress, they tend to do way less damage in battle. For some reason, during my entire playthrough of this game, my Joseph Joestar actually had a lot of stress most of the battles, and he was actually doing the weakest amount of attacks, which kind of sucked. And basically, Jotaro was my strongest fighter, followed by Kakyoin and Polnareff and Avdol. Although it is kind of funny in these battles, when a character blocks, they actually have to summon their stands to attack, but they're not exactly, attacking, they're actually blocking. I assume it's kind of game limitations, but it is kind of funny. And one thing about moving around the world, you walk really slow, and it kind of takes a bit of a while for you to enter doors by going up and down, so it does take a little while to traverse through the world, but there are Speedwagon Foundation buildings where you get to save your game and heal, and there are item and weapon shops where you get to buy items and weapons for your characters, and I highly recommend stocking up on healing items, because even though most of the battles in this game are pretty easy, there are going to be some really tough opponents in this game. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for the Super Famicom follows the Stardust Crusaders story. Well, because Stardust Crusaders is the most popular arc in JoJo. And you have to travel the world in order to stop Dio so you can save your mother Holly's life. So this game you get to travel through Japan, Pakistan, India, and then finally Egypt to fight Dio. And this is a pretty short game that you can beat within 8 hours, although you're going to be spending most of the time being lost, because the game doesn't exactly give you a good idea of where to go, so I definitely recommend using a guide. And surprisingly, there are a lot of battles that you can't actually win at first. You actually have to do like 3 commands, and then after that your opponent runs away, and then you have to fight him again another day. And because of the limitations of the Super Famicom, they did have to get rid of a lot of the stuff from the story. So for example, you don't exactly travel the ship where you fight the monkey with the stand. You actually go inside a haunted house to fight the monkey with the stand. And like I said earlier, it's very important to stock up on healing items, because there are a lot of difficult battles in this game, like the fight with the monkey with the stand, and the fight with Vanilla Ice and Dio at the end. And the game does take some liberties to give you full party members in the fights with Dio Mario and Vanilla Ice at the end because they're so hard. And spoilers, if you've actually read or watched Stardust Crusaders, you actually know that Kakyoin, Iggy, and Avdol die, but in this game they are alive. So in all honesty, I do think that this is a decent effort for the very first JoJo's Bizarre Adventure game, but I don't think it's that good of a game. It just feels very sluggish, it kind of takes forever to get around. It's not very clear on what you're supposed to do unless you have a guide, and I am playing the English translated version that was done by fans. It kind of captures the essence of the series, but I think the future games do it better. So it is a decent first effort, it's just not that good of a game. But do I recommend playing it? Well, since there is an English translation of it out, yes, I do recommend playing it. But it might be a bit of a slog compared to the rest of the JoJo games. So the good news is, if you're a collector, you can get this game pretty cheap on eBay for about 20 to 25 bucks, and you can also get a repro of the fan translated cart for pretty cheap as well. Alright guys, so that ends this episode of awesome video game memories about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for the Super Famicom. It's a decent game, but it's not a great game, but if you're a fan of the series, definitely try it out.
Many games past me as of right now. The void in my heart changed with that game I played. There is no limit to every chance I find bizarre. Oh yeah! And another game I have to play. I am so reluctant, but I am so intrigued by this great wide mystery. Many clues I have to find. Get to the bottom of what's going on in town. Will you play this JoJo game? The time we have just flies away. Is there a way we can play this crazy, noisy, bizarre game?
Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven for the PS3 and the PS4. Mostly the PS4. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven is an original JoJo adventure, well, kind of, for the PS3 and the PS4, and is an arena brawler developed by CyberConnect 2, which developed the previous game, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle, and the Naruto Ninja Storm games. So what's great about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven, it retains the same cel-shaded look that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle had, and it is a 2-on-2 open arena brawler. Well, the arenas aren't as big as you think they are, but they're big enough to have fun, where you get to have an old-fashioned slugfest with all your favorite JoJo's Bizarre Adventure characters. So as you're fighting, you can collect power-ups, you can collect money, and what is awesome about this game is you get to do dual heat techniques with your partner, so you can basically combine Jonathan and Jotaro doing an awesome dual heat technique to beat Dio to the ground, yeah! And there's so many characters in this game that you'll probably want to play with all of them to see how cool all the dual heat techniques are. And what I feel is the highlight of this game is its very, very unique story mode, which actually kind of follows the JoJo story from parts 1 through 8, but deviates from it. So one thing I do like and dislike about this game is you actually get to unleash a very, very precise amount of attacks against your opponent, but the problem is your opponent can actually do the same amount of precise attacks to you, making it very, very difficult to get out of a barrage of attacks if your opponent actually hits you with a whole bunch of them. So it's pretty awesome when you're pounding on your opponent and they have no chance to recover, but it really sucks when they start pounding on you and you don't have a chance to recover, so you pretty much have to wait for every single attack of your opponents to land before you can recover, which really, really sucks and kind of takes away from the game and kind of hinders the game mechanics. And I don't really remember this being a huge problem in the Naruto Ninja Storm games, so basically when you're hit by your opponent's barrage, you're gonna get launched all the way across the arena without much chance to recover. And in between battles, you get to power up your characters based on the experience and gold you get, and I definitely highly recommend powering up your characters as high as they can be so you can unleash more powerful attacks and you can unleash a lot more awesome dual heat attacks. And in my opinion, the biggest selling point of this game is its very, very unique storyline, which does follow the entire JoJo story from parts 1 through 8, but deviates heavily from it, kind of like, what ifs. So the story mode of this game begins with the final battle between Jotaro and Dio at the end of part 3, and so you're there with Jotaro, Joseph, and Jean-Pierre something. So in All-Star Battle, they call them Jean-Pierre Eiffel, and in this game, they just call him Jean-Pierre. No Polnareff, no nothing. Like, couldn't they call him Paul Renef? Or something like that, just maybe deviate so you're not infringing on, Michael Polnareff's copyright. Well, then again, the JoJo games also have the big copyright problem that the anime series has too. So there you are with Jotaro, Joseph, and Jean-Pierre P. Okay, we'll just call him Jean-Pierre P. And then suddenly, Avdol and Kakyoin come back. And if you know what happens in the story, Kakyoin and Avdol die, but through weird circumstances based on this game, they come back, and you have to get the bone of Dio, or basically the bone of Jonathan, since he kind of stole his body. And pretty cool in the story mode of this game, you get to see the different Joestars kind of interact with each other, like Jonathan's like, hey, I get to interact with all my descendants, and then you actually get to see Dio from part 3 and 1 actually interact with Diego from part 7, dinosaur Diego. So basically you have a time-stopping vampire with a dinosaur, and you can also get a time-stopping dinosaur. Well, alternate universe Diego. Although when you do reach the part 8 material, you can only play as Josuke and Joshu from part 8, because at the time when this game came out, JoJo line was only maybe like 3 or 4 years in. And of course, when you're controlling the part 7 characters, Gyro and Johnny, they're on their horses, and if they get knocked off their horses, you have to actually get back on them in order to attack, and kind of like the previous game, All-Star Battle. And yes, there is a part where all 8 JoJo's are together. Wow, so many JoJo's. JoJo. So once you reach the end of the game, you fight Heaven Ascension Dio. And basically, he's Super Saiyan 3 Dio. I mean, Heaven Ascension Dio looks super silly, kind of like how silly, Father Pucci looked at the end of part 6. So once you beat Heaven Ascension Dio, you return the timelines back in order, although the ending does show some stills on what happens to all the characters, with some different scenarios. So, is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven a good game? I definitely say it's a good game, but not as good as All-Star Battle in my opinion, because yes, while the fighting is very fast-paced and frantic, and yes, you get to upgrade your characters a lot and the awesome dual attacks, I think the game is definitely hindered by some of the fighting mechanics where if your opponent gets a barrage on you and you have to wait for your opponent's entire barrage to finish before you can recover, that kind of slows it down, so you have to be very, very careful and very precise about how you attack your opponent. And in all honesty, honestly, I do think the stand users in this game are very, very overpowered in comparison to the ham-on users. And I do like the ham-on users like Jonathan and Zeppeli and younger Joseph, but if you want to win matches online, I highly recommend sticking with the stand users. So if you want a physical copy of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven, it's gonna run you pretty much $70 to $80 because this game was released in limited quantities, and both Japanese and English copies will probably run you for a lot more than you want to pay for them. But the digital copy is, $60 with all the included DLC. But if you're lucky on the PlayStation Network, you could get some sales, and I actually got this game for $14.99. But if you're lucky on, Black Friday or any holidays, you can probably get this game for $9.99 because I honestly don't think this game is worth the $59.99 asking price. Alright guys, so that ends this episode of awesome video game memories about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Eyes of Heaven, because this game is a crazy, noisy, bizarre town. Playing your game, I close my eyes and take it to a place where your crystal game and magenta feelings take up shelter at the base of my game. Sweet like a sip of cherry cola. I don't need to try and explain, I just hold on tight. And if it happens again, I might play so slide to the start of the grip and the end of the game cannibal that I need to, I want to. Come play a little bit closer, jump now and get a bit higher. You never know what hits you when I play you. Ooh, I play you, I don't know if I beat you, but ooh, I play to find out. Ooh, I play you, I don't know if I beat you, but ooh, I play to find out. Feeling crushed with intense pressure, the stone that holds my fate now is making a hostage of our games. But I won't run away in fear, I will find the fragments of our games now, buried under the rubble that we can see. With my own two hands I take my own destiny, all my hopes and dreams for you to see. I am now determined to become the greatest gang star. Now I can change the world and everything. Gaming gold, only those who believe will get through this game, and then we'll move on to fight the final boss, the ruthless Diavolo. Defying all the gods now, he is the son of Dio. Giorno Giovanna is JoJo. Gaming Gold! Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, aka Vento Ario, for the PS2. Vento. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind for the PS2 was released in 2002 and is based on part 5 of the series, as you follow Giorno Giovanna, the son of Dio Brando, in his quest to become the greatest gangstar in order to get rid of Europe's corruption and gangs. I want to be a gangstar. And just like Capcom's previous effort, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Heritage to the Future for the PlayStation, Arcade, and Dreamcast, Golden Wind was gonna come out to America around 2002, and it was actually playable at E3 in English, but it didn't come out in America for reasons unknown, most likely for the music copyrights, yeah. So in this review, we're definitely saying Golden Experience, Sticky Fingers, Moody Blues, Aerosmith, Spice Girl, and much more, because, screw that copyright stuff. Okay, don't demonetize me, please. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind for the PS2 is a brawler, unlike the one-on-one fighting game they released earlier, but this is actually a very, very different and unique game. It's actually a bit of a brawler, kind of mixed with some puzzle elements, and I'll get to that later. Because in this game, you're not exactly battling hordes of enemies like any normal brawler like in Fighting Force. You're actually just fighting mostly one-on-one against the various gang members of the boss trying to kill you. And since this game came out in 2002, which was probably 16 years before the Golden Wind anime came out in Japan, this game has a very, very different voice cast than the one that you're used to, but I do think they do the job pretty well. Especially Pesci's voice, you know, the guy with the fishing pole. His voice in both this game and in the anime are both really creepy. Aniki! And now to mention the puzzle elements about this game. The puzzle elements in this game are definitely based on the character's stance. So when you're fighting Bucciarati at the beginning and he's using sticky fingers to zip around everywhere, you have to figure out and anticipate where Bucciarati is going to end up. So you kind of have to play a game of whack-a-mole, or maybe whack-a-Bucciarati. And it definitely helps to know the events of the series very well, because so many of the puzzle elements of this game try to recreate what happens in the series. Now, not every fight in Golden Wind is in this game, but the big majority of them are. So it's pretty cool to see these played out in game form, developed by Capcom. So when you're playing as Narantia and you're actually using his Aerosmith stand, no, I'm not saying that little bomber you actually control the plane and you actually get to shoot your opponent, and also in the fight in Pompeii with Fugo and Abacchio, you actually have to switch between the mirror world, and then after that you have to use the stand in the real world, and it definitely shows off this game's very, very unique mechanics. And actually, not every battle you have to win, because there are some battles where you do have to survive for a set amount of time, like, so the mission where you're Bucciarati and you have to deliver Trish to the boss, and if you've seen the series, you kind of know how that goes. You actually have to avoid the boss for a set amount of time in order to get past the mission rather than fighting him. And there is that fight with Notorious B.I.G. on the plane with Trish. Biggie, 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 can't you see? YouTube's gonna copyright me if I sing any more of the lyrics. Where you have to be careful about moving, or else Notorious B.I.G. is gonna like knock you all the way to the back of the plane. So you actually have to use Trish's stand Spice Girl to actually hit some of the airplane seats, so Notorious B.I.G. gets distracted, and you have to be very, very careful. I mean, if you thought this was intense in the series, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is very, very intense in the game, because you're actually controlling it. There's also that fight with Guido Mista where you're fighting Gyakio, and Gyakio is very, very difficult to hit with Sex Pistols, so you have to actually reflect Sex Pistols, off each other, and it's very, very unique. It's a bit difficult, but it's very, very fun to figure out, trust me. And also, just like in the series where you're fighting Chocolata, you have to elevate your position or else his stand is gonna disintegrate you. So just like I said, this game is a brawler, but you have to use every character's unique stand ability in order to beat the game. But luckily, Diavolo at the end is probably one of the easier bosses, because the rest of the game, it's not a very, very difficult game, but it's a very, very, thinking game, but you have to think more like you're actually reading and watching the anime or the series, because you have to remember what happens, and if you can kind of figure out how to work that into the game, then you can probably beat this game pretty easily. And if you do get the maximum amount of bonus points by trying to recreate parts of the series, yeah, you can actually accumulate enough bonus points to play as different characters in different parts of the series. So imagine having Narantia actually fighting Bruno Bucciarati at the beginning, so you can make your own Golden Wind dream fights. Although there is one thing in this game that is missing, that is the torture dance.
Vocal recussion on a whole nother level, coming from a game. Vocal recussion on a whole nother level, coming from a game. Oh, it's Golden when we're playing Golden when on the PS2 and we're playing it, and oh, it's Golden when. And we keep on playing, and we keep on playing on the PS2, that we keep on playing, and we keep on playing on the PS2, and we keep on playing, and we keep on playing on the PS2, we keep on playing.
Yeah, it would have been really cool if they tried some kind of DDR thing to match the torture dance. And also, once you go through the game, you get to unlock bonuses in the gallery, and you get to see 3D renditions of all the characters. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind for the PS2, is it as good as Capcom's previous effort? In my opinion, I don't think it's as good as the previous Capcom JoJo game, but this is definitely a very, very good game. Definitely way better than Phantom Blood. I'll take Golden Wind over Phantom Blood for the PS2 any day of the week. And luckily this game is not very expensive on eBay. I got it for about 15 bucks, but I did get it in a bundle with this and Phantom Blood for about 30. And yes, there is an English fan translation which I used to capture all the footage for this game. So if you have a PS2 emulator or a modded PS2, you can try it out. Alright guys, so that ends this episode of awesome video game memories about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. I highly recommend it because it's a very, very unique game, so arrivederci.
I wanna play you. I wanna play you. I wanna play you. I wanna play you.
Every time I close my game, I wake up feeling so horny. I can't get you out of my game. Playing you be all I see. I would give anything just to make you play with me. I don't give a damn about nothing else. Playing you is all I need. Tonight, I need your money. I need your money, yeah. Tonight, you got my time. Whatever you want, I'll play you, baby. Tonight, you won't be sorry. Yeah, doobie, doobie. Tonight, you got my game. You got my game. I wanna do is play you. What must I play? Oh, tell me. What must I do? What must I do to show how much I think about playing you? Feel it. What must I play? Tell me. What must I do? Yeah. To show how much I think about playing you. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to check out these other videos, and also make sure to follow me on social media and check out the official Battle Geek Plus website. Take care.